Okay, continuing further with the other differences, I was talking about sale and pledge. So, in case of sale, there is transfer of ownership. All the rights are transferred to the buyer. He becomes the owner. He can sell the goods further. He can use the goods. He may damage the goods. He may also pledge the goods. He may bail the goods also. He has got all the rights. But in case of pledge, that person, the person who gets the possession of the goods, he is the pledgee, and the goods are transferred to him for special reason to retain those goods as a security unless the loan etc against which that item was given as security, that loan is repaid, and after that loan is repaid, then the goods are to be returned. But in case there is any default in the repayment of loan etc, then the pledgee can retain the goods, and after giving a due notice he can also sell the goods. That is why it is said, in case of pledge, the pledgee has a special property. So he has right to resell also, but that is in a special circumstance in case of default by the pledger. Sale and mortgage are similar. The difference is, in case of sale, it is movable goods are there. In case of mortgage, it is just like pledge, but the goods involved will be immovable property. Next difference and very important one is sale and hire purchase agreement. So we are going to discuss it in very detail. So first of all, before we understand what is sale and hire purchase difference, we need to understand what is a hire purchase agreement. So hire purchase is a type of a contract which is governed by a special hire purchase act is there for that. But it is also a kind of a transaction which can materialize into a sale later on. So that is why it has certain similarities with sale, but it also has many differentiating features compared to the sale. So, what is hire purchase? We all have heard about this hire purchase term. And hire purchase is a contract wherein a person is going to take any kind of durable goods on based on any agreement, and the term of agreement will provide that the buyer is agreeing to pay the price in installments. He cannot pay the price in lump sum, and he agrees to pay the price in installments. So in case the installments they are to be paid, in that case the installments will be so calculated that the full price, cash price of the goods, along with the interest which will become due because the payment is not being done immediately, you are taking some time lag to pay the amount involved. So in that case, that installment amount will cover the cash price as well as the interest portion of the amount due. So these installments are to be paid. So it depends how much you want to prolong the payment of these installments. So number of installments, etc., amount of installment, rate of interest, this all will be agreed upon. And you will start with the first payment of first installment, which is called cash down payment. So in case you pay the first installment and immediately the ownership is transferred in your name, it is called a contract of sale on installment basis. But in case the agreement is of such nature that you are paying the first installment, you are given the possession of the goods, but you do not become the owner of the goods, and the ownership gets transferred in your name only after you make all the installments and you pay even the last installment. That means the ownership in this second situation gets transferred only after the payment of all the installments due. So both appear to be similar, sale on installment basis and sale on hire purchase basis. In sale on installment basis, ownership is getting transferred with the payment of first installment only. You get possession of the goods in both the cases. But in case of hire purchase, ownership will not get transferred immediately. And in hire purchase, the installments that you are paying, they are considered as hire charges of those goods. So you are using those goods, you are not the owner, you are kind of a bailee. You are taking those goods and you are using those goods, and the installments that you are paying will be considered as hire charges of using those goods unless you pay the all the installments. Once you pay all the installments, after last installment, from bailee you become the buyer. And in between, In case you make any default in the payment of any installment, then your contract will be terminated. The goods will be taken back by the hirer, the seller, the hired seller, and all the installments that you have paid already, those installments will also be forfeited, because he'll be considering that the installments that you have paid, they were the higher charges of using those goods. So to be able to become the owner of the goods and to be able to protect your installments paid from getting forfeited, you should not make any default in hire purchase. Whereas in case of sale, in case installments, you can pay the price in lump sum also, you can pay the price in installment also. But in that case, once you pay the installments, you keep on paying the installment, that will be said to be payment towards the price and not as the higher charges, because you have become the owner. So in that case also, if you make a default in any kind of installment, then your price paid will not be forfeited, your goods will not be taken back from you. But because you have made a default, because you have made a breach in the payment, then some kind of damages may be claimed from you by the seller. So considering these aspects, what are the differences between these all? Form of contract, first of all, the sale and hire purchase, these are little bit different types of contract, in the sense sale can be oral or written both, whereas hire purchase has to be in writing only. There's always a written document which has to be prepared, in which terms and conditions of installment, date of installment, rate of interest, and other terms and conditions will be mentioned. It is always in the written form. Ownership transfer, we know, in case of sale, there is immediate ownership transfer. In hire purchase, it happens only at the last installment payment. Right of return, in case of sale, because the buyer has become the owner, buyer cannot think about returning the goods. He has to retain the goods. Yes, in case there is some kind of defect in the goods involved, you can ask for the damages, etc., from the seller, but you cannot seek return. Whereas in case of hire purchase, the hire buyer, hire purchaser can at any stage he can ask to return the goods, and he may say, I don't want to continue with this transaction, and whatever installments he would have paid, those installments will be now considered the higher charges of using those goods so far. So you can choose to return, because in case you don't want to continue, you don't like those goods, you don't want to purchase those goods, you don't have any price to pay for the same. So this option of return is there in case of hire purchase, but not in case of sale. Buyer's rights. In case of the sale, buyer has all the rights. He becomes owner. He can sell the goods, consume the goods. He may damage the goods. He may pledge the goods. He may bail the goods. He may further resell the goods also. Whereas in case of hire purchase, the hire purchaser, he is only a bailee for the time being. He's not, he has not yet become the owner. So all these rights of resale, pledge, etc. is not available with him. Forfeiture of installments paid, we have discussed clearly. In hire purchase, in case you make any single default in any single installment, all the installments paid will be forfeited and the goods will be taken back. Whereas in case of sale, in case you make any installment, make a breach in payment of any installment, then your contract will not be cancelled, your installments will not be forfeited, but you will have to pay those installments sooner or later. And some damages will also be claimed for this kind of default. Governing Act, I have told you already, contract of sale is governed by this Act, Sale of Goods Act 1930, and for hire purchase we have Hire Purchase Act 1972. Sales tax levy, now the sales tax has become GST. So only contract of sale will involve the sale tax. GST will be levied. Whereas in case of hire purchase, it becomes sale later on. So sales tax or GST levy is not there in the initial stages. Nature of contract, just like sale and hire purchase, sale and agreement to sell. Sale is an executed contract, and the hire purchase is an executory contract, because there is something pending. Price is yet to be paid. The ownership is yet to be transferred. Whereas in case of sale, it may be executed if it is sale. It may be executory in case it is agreement to sell, because sale means both sale and agreement to sell. Termination of contract also, I told you that in case of hire purchase, the hire purchaser may choose to terminate the contract at any stage, but he cannot demand back the installments paid. Whereas in case of sale, there is no question of termination, even if there is default in installment. Risk of loss in case buyer is insolvent. So because buyer is owner, so risk of loss in case of sale is to be borne by the buyer only. In case buyer is insolvent and the seller is not in a position to recover his price, he cannot even get back his goods because goods are under the ownership of buyer now. But seller can only claim his price if unpaid from the official assignee. This point we have discussed already in the difference of sale and agreement to sell. Same point, 10th point under hire purchase. In case a buyer here will be hire purchaser. In case the hire purchaser becomes insolvent, you can safely get the return of the goods back to you because goods are not as yet become the under the ownership of the hire purchaser. So your price is not being paid because the person is insolvent. You can safely get your goods back and nobody can stop you. Resale, in case of sale, it can be resale can be there, and you may transfer the goods to somebody else. And even if you have not paid the price or installments, you may make a good sale, valid sale, provided the person to whom you are selling these goods, he was acting in good faith. He was not having any information about you not having paid the installments. Whereas in case of hire purchaser, there is no question of resale because hire purchaser is only a hirer and he has not yet become the owner of the goods. Last point is implied conditions and warranties. This is our upcoming chapter, next chapter. So we are going to study about certain conditions and warranties applicable to every contract of sale. And these implied conditions and warranties are only applicable on the contract of sale, and they will not be applicable on a contract of hire purchase. So all these differences are explained further also. You can go through this. The next topic which keeps coming in short notes is define goods under Sale of Goods Act. So although I have discussed with you already that goods means movable goods, will not include actionable claims and money, but will include stock and shares, growing crops, grass, any things attached to the land which can be severed for sale. So this definition you have to learn this section also, section 2, subsection 7. So in case this question comes, define goods, you are not supposed to stop with definition only. You have to further explain this classification even if they have not asked you clearly. So classification of goods, goods further can be existing goods, they can be future goods, or they can be contingent goods. Existing goods are the goods which were already in the possession of the seller when the contract was made. He was either already the owner of the goods or he had already produced those goods himself. So these existing goods can be specific goods or uncertain goods or ascertain goods. Specific goods are now that seller may have huge stock of similar goods and you want to buy a few of them or one of them. Then if you go and identify a specific item of among all those goods, it is called the specific goods. So you have agreed upon buying or selling a specifically identified goods. Like for example, you want to buy a car, and the showroom in that car showroom there are 10 cars, and you have chosen a specific car out of them. So this is a specific good. Uncertain goods, where the goods are not specifically identified, but you have only indicated what kind of goods you want to buy or what nature or what sample of goods you want to choose. Like you have seen sample of rice. Three different brands were shown to you and you say that I will be choosing rice of the third brand. But you only have selected the sample and you wanted to buy 10 kg of those rice. Now you have identified the description of the rice, but The 10 kg rice are yet to be specifically identified and then kept aside for you. So unless that is done, the goods are said to be unascertain goods. We don't know which 10 kg portion belongs to you because it is not specifically identified so far. It is only description which has been finalized. And once that seller separates 10 kg material of that rice, packs it for you, separates it from the other stock, it becomes third category, ascertain goods. Future goods are the goods which were not lying in the custody of the seller when the contract was made. Either it is growing crops or it is something which is to be coming from far off place and it is on transit, etc. So in that case, it can be a future goods or it can be a contingent goods. Contingent goods are the goods, the arrival of which or the receiving of this which is contingent, it is uncertain. Like the goods are coming by ship and there is a storm in the sea. So it is not very certain that the goods are going to arrive. So in that case, they become contingent goods. So future goods and contingent goods are not totally separate. So contingent good is a type of future goods. So what is the effect of destruction of the subject matter of any contract of sale? And let me tell you, subject matter of any contract of sale will be goods, the goods that we have just studied. So what happens in case these goods which you have identified to purchase, if they get perish, if they get destroyed, they get damaged. So in case these goods were specific goods and before the contract of sale was done, these goods got damaged and the seller was not aware about this destruction, then there will not be any contract. You cannot perform this contract becomes void. But in case the goods have perished after agreement to sell, but again before the sale is completed, then also the contract will be void if the conditions, if these conditions are fulfilled, which are, let me show you that screen first. If these were also specific goods, the contract was agreement to sell and not actual sale, and goods have perished before agreement to sell could become a sale, and there was none of the party was at fault for this kind of destruction of goods. So in that case also, you will not be able to execute the contract because the goods have got damaged. Like, see this example, Elphick versus Barnes. In this case, a person wanted to buy a horse, but he wanted to use this horse on trial for 8 days first. Price was agreed upon. He took away the horse. He wanted to ride it and to find it whether it is good for him or not. But within those 8 days period, that means this was a case of agreement to sell. The agreement to sale was to get converted into sale after 8 days only, may or may not be. But within those 8 days time, without fault of any of the parties, the horse in the custody of buyer got the horse got dead. So in that case, it was held that there cannot be any contract of sale. The sale has not been executed, and the goods have perished. Goods here are the horse himself. So court said that in this case, the buyer will not be made liable to pay for the loss of the horse because ownership has not yet transferred, and the contract has become void. So seller was supposed to bear all this loss. But in this case, if it could be established that the horse died because of any fault of the buyer, etc., his neglect, etc., then buyer will have to be responsible for this loss. Last topic is price. So we know price is always there. Consideration has to be there in contract of sale, and this consideration has to be in money. But it can be partly in goods and partly in money. It cannot be completely in goods form because that becomes barter. Further, this price, how can this price be fixed? Now, this price may be fixed by the parties when they make that contract initially, or they may not fix the price. They may fix some manner in which price will be finalized later on, like market price, whatever market price will be there on the date of the deal, we will finalize that price. Or they may determine the price on the basis of course of dealing, past course of dealing with you. Like in the past also, you were charged 10% less than MRP. So in future also, whatever MRP will be there, you will be charging 10% discount on that MRP. So past course of dealing will determine the price that you have to fix up. Or if you have not fixed either A or B or C is not applicable on you, then you should pay a reasonable price. And lastly, you may also name a third party who may fix a price for the two of you if you so agree. And the last one is earnest money. Sometimes, in case of some contract, you ask for some initial security money. So, if that security money is given, it is a kind of a guarantee that you will not be making a default in the performance later on. You will not make a breach, because if you have paid this security money or earnest money and later on you do not execute the contract, you refuse to purchase the goods as a buyer, or you refuse to sell the goods as a seller, then in that case this money will not be given back to the buyer if he is at fault, and money will be forfeited. And in case it is the seller who has made this default, then seller will have to return double the money. So this is called the earnest money. So in this case, in case you perform the contract, then this earnest money will be adjusted towards the final price. It will be an adjustment towards your full price that you were supposed to pay. So with this, we end with the first introductory chapter of the contract of sale of goods. Thank you.